The Poland Show.
We got to go after this with everything we got, figuring they're going to come with everything they got.
I'll start off by saying I'm bored, I'm broke, and I'm back.
The Andy Poland Show on ESPN 630 starts right now.
Oh, to have a backup quarterback that you can count on. Oh, did you see some of the performances yesterday from backups around the league? What you saw yesterday, aside from one big blunder early in the game, was a solid professional performance from someone who has fit in here like a glove. Could have competed for jobs in other places. Nope, didn't do it. Comes back here. Marcus Mariota performed brilliantly yesterday, albeit a bad team. The Raiders are horrible. We know that. But they got another bad team, looks like, on the road next week. And they are 3-point favorites with or without Mariota to beat the Atlanta Falcons, who got shut out in Carolina. It's hard in this league to get shut out. It's hard to do. At some point, you're going to kick a field goal or somebody's going to turn the ball over. Something's going to happen. They got shut out and deserved to get shut out yesterday. But we'll spend more time on the Falcons during the week. What we look at is, well, twofold. One is Mariota. The second is Mariota slamming into Dan Quinn. And, you know, the old metaphor, you got to get right back up. Well, as Frankie Louvu said, Dan Quinn got up like toast. He popped right up like a piece of toast out of the toaster after he got slammed into by Mariota near the end of the first half. And when they kicked the field goal, you see Quinn with his arm pump and blood gushing down his face. Man, I mean, just so many different elements of this. And look, we have seen Mariota perform well when he's come in before. Fortunately, he hasn't had to play much. Jayden, despite the fact I thought from the first game last year that he wasn't going to make it through halfway through the season, started it every single game, and he finally missed one yesterday with the knee that I think he probably would have gone with if it were a playoff game, but they wanted to play it safe. We don't know whether he's going to play this week, and I think if there's any question off what we saw yesterday, I would think they would go with Mariota again, because it's a long season. Even after they play next week, what do they have, 13 games left? So there's an awful lot of football left to go. But this was Cliff Kingsbury last Thursday on the question of, and at that point we still didn't know whether it was going to be Mariota or Daniels, but on the thought that, okay, if Daniels can't go, what about Mariota?
When we signed him back, we felt like we have two starters in the building, which is rare in this league. So anytime he was asked to play or practice or even on scout team, he's been phenomenal. So he treats it like a pro, as a leader on the team, despite not being the starter, which is hard to do, and can't say enough good things about him. So if he has to go, I'm sure he'll be ready.
And can you provide any update on where Jayden is today?
No, he's just preparing mentally. Marcus is getting the reps physically. Jayden preparing mentally, and we'll take it from there.
Yeah, and as we know, he didn't play yesterday, didn't even dress for the game. Mariota in the game, 15 of 21 for 207 yards passing, scored a touchdown, also threw a touchdown pass. He did fumble, but he ran for 40 yards on the day. I guess most of it on that run where he fumbled, trying to be a hero, leaping over a defender. That was the only nit that I had to pick with him yesterday. He did a great job all around. And these are the stats. Now, recognize this. The extended playing time that he had last year, played in 3 games. The extended playing time that he had against Carolina was that's a bad Carolina team that they played last year. They're better this year. They shut out the Falcons yesterday, but he rang it up. And then in the last game of the year against the Cowboys, who were playing for nothing, and they wanted to make sure that Jayden Daniels didn't get slammed into by Micah Parsons heading into the playoffs, they played him in the second half. And the other time he played last year was just mop-up duty in a blowout over Tennessee. But here are the numbers. He's completed 49 of 65 passes for 571 yards, 5 touchdowns, no interceptions. His quarterback rating is 127.3. 24 rushing attempts for 132 yards and 2 touchdowns, and he's appeared in 3 games in 2024 and made his first start yesterday. 2 of the 4 appearances, Commanders have scored 40 or more, thanks to George Carmi for putting those numbers together on Twitter. This was Dan Quinn on Mariota performing, and what a performance by the special teams. Quinn was questioned a week or 2 ago about using Deebo Samuel, who's so valuable in so many ways for this team, on kickoffs where he could get hurt. And he said, look, this is a guy who can really change a game by breaking one. And he got this game off to a great start with the return that he had. He also returned, I think, 2 other kicks in the game. And then they got Jeremy Lane, who was a 4th-round pick. He returned a punt for a touchdown. So special teams performed. Defense was very good. They sacked Geno Smith 5 times, and the offense scored 41 points. Coaches talk about all 3 phases. All 3 phases did it. Here's Quinn.
Special teams was right at the start of it again, and I thought they've got a knack, and we're gaining on it. Having Jalen there on the punt return side, seeing Deebo on the kick return side. I think what we saw maybe a week ago, Chick, was the covering side of punt, putting it down inside, and so we just missed some of those chances. And so when you can capitalize and win on field position, a long return, keeping them pinned back, those are winning football moments. And when you do it, the results, the story almost writes itself. And when you don't do it, you just keep putting yourself behind and you make it more difficult. So it was cool to see all guys leaning in on one another today.
And everybody who's come in here said that you provided the inspiration after what you went through. We can see it on your face right now. you go in and get treatment and come back out and talk to these guys. Just describe what took place for you.
Well, we made the kick and came in, and then we went out and started it again. But, we all had a good laugh about it for sure.
What did that feel like?
Yeah, probably like you'd expect, and it's this kind of part don't want it to happen, but it was all good.
Yeah, he tried to play it down as much as possible, but that's all anybody was talking about. This was Frankie Louvu talking to Scott Abraham of Channel 7.
I was there when it happened, so I kind of picked him up and just checking in. He popped up like toast. And and I was like, hey, D, you good? He looked at me, and he gave me a nod. You know what I mean? I was like, well, yeah, that's a real bad mother. You already know. But, yeah, man, I think we were always concerned, when he went down. But knowing him, bro, he's a true dog, true coach, and, he was in for the fight.
As a team, when you see something like that, how does that motivate you? How do you rally behind that in a sense?
I mean, it just add more wood to the fire, I feel like. You know what I mean? Like, Marcus was moving real fast, and he was moving because that play he was just running out, so we can have some time on the clock to kick the field goal. But just making sure he's okay. I'm gonna check in with him after this. Make sure he's cool, bro. And man, it puts more wood to the fire. You know what I mean? And have us going.
Yeah, that's a great line. He popped up like toast and almost did a takeoff on Shaft where he said he's a bad mother and shut your mouth. You can imagine what the acronym stands for when Jeremy Reeves talks about his coach.
BMF. I'm going to answer for you. BMF. Dog-ass dude. That's how he built, man. So, when he brings the standard and then he holds the standard in a live situation, come on, man. I ain't got no excuse, tired or not, to go out there and just go play my ass off.
When you see something like that as a team, collectively, how do you rally around that? How does that motivate you?
You got your coach landed on the line, right? He's hurting. He gets drilled on the sideline, right? But he gets back up, and he's right back to it. Says a lot about the man, right? So that's important to the group. The group sees that, right? Now it's like, okay, our leader is out there doing this. Let's go.
How many times in your life has somebody told you it's not about anything more than getting back up after you get knocked down? You hear that in sports. You hear that in life. Everybody has setbacks. You got to get back up. And what we saw yesterday was kind of a metaphor for that, and a pretty good couple of paragraphs from Barry Zerluga in his column today in the Post. He talks about Quinn and all the slogans that he has: anybody, anywhere, anytime, winning time moments, tell the truth Monday, the commander's standard. All that stuff, may seem, okay, trite, coach saying, so forth. But as Barry points out, it works. In a season plus in Washington, Quinn has done a superior job of establishing his expectations, communicating them to his coaching staff and players, and then holding them to the standard. Sunday showed he holds himself to the very same standard. In a leader, how important is that? Chris Paul added, he's an absolute warrior. Absolute warrior. Juiced everybody up. He juiced everybody up by watching Gay's, that's Matt Gay, end of the half field goal, which went through the uprights. He had his moments, and I'll get to him in a little bit. But then raised his hand, and you saw the blood coming down his face. As Barry writes, for a moment he was Mel Gibson in Braveheart. And, fortunately, it was not more serious than that, and maybe he benefited from the fact that it has a grass field there at Northwest Stadium instead of artificial turf, because you saw his head bounce off the turf. You wondered about a concussion. They checked him for that. He was okay, and they did need stitches, but did need some bandages, and they kind of stopped the bleeding and so forth. But I go back to this, and when I saw him get knocked down by Mariota, I thought of this. This was Dan Devine. Do you remember Dan Devine? Probably more famous for coaching at Notre Dame. He was the coach when Rudy played there. He was, I think, unfairly portrayed in the movie, and I heard that from players who played on that team, including Bob Golick. But he had been a successful coach at Missouri, and the Packers made the kind of mistake that, well, maybe made here with Steve Spurrier and others. You take a guy who doesn't have NFL experience as a coach. Spurrier played in the league, and you make him a head coach in the NFL, and it wasn't good. Like Vince Lombardi retired after the 1967 season. Phil Bengtson coached for a few years. He wasn't very good. They bring in Dan Devine. His first game, September 19th, 1971. They're home against the Giants, and they lose a game 42-40. But worse, as the game was closing down in the fourth quarter, Packers safety Doug Hart intercepted a Fran Tarkenton pass and was shoved out of bounds by Giants lineman and former Packer Bob Hyland. As Hyland skidded to the bench area, Devine got his foot caught in the canvas covering. Hyland barreled into him, wiped him off his feet. Between the blow and the pileup, Devine suffered a double fracture of his lower left leg. He coached from the press box at County Stadium the next week, but came back to the sidelines on crutches. And as I recall, coached the rest of the season on crutches. Also had like this full leg cast from that. So, fortunate Dan Quinn didn't have something like that. But everybody seemed to be in on the idea that this really fueled the team. Because this is the first half. I'll tell you this. It was 10-10. I'm thinking, God, it's a good thing they're playing a bad team because they're not playing very well. You had the bad fumble by Mariota as they were looking to be on their way for a score. And then there was a sequence where I think Mariota thought that there was an offsides penalty. He throws the ball to Jeremy Lane, and Lane drops the ball in the end zone. That should have been a catch. That's followed up by a 37-yard field goal attempt by Matt Gay, and he missed. He missed the kick. So I'm thinking, man, it's a good thing that the Raiders really stink, and they're playing on a short week. Remember, they played Monday night and had to go cross country in a game that starts for West Coast time, 10 o'clock in the morning. Otherwise, they might be losing this game. They're giving this game away. And after Quinn got knocked down, the game really flipped. It changed. As for Mariota, as for the way he performed, you've heard Dan Quinn talk about not his 53-man roster, but his 70-man roster. So when he sees a performance like Mariota yesterday, he's not surprised.
I knew we'd support him like crazy. You just knew it. This teammate, what he is. I thought it looked, very much quintessential Marcus. Aggressive, run pass stuff, to go, scrambling, being aggressive. He felt very much in control of it. I was pleased with the line in terms of the run game to go. But for him, I knew, would he stay consistent and not have extra, things to go? And, man, he's just so steady. And I thought that's exactly where it was. I was super proud of him.
Well, he should have been pleased with the way they ran the ball. 201 yards on 32 attempts. That's 6.3 yards a carry. And, look, sure, McNichol goes for 60 yards. But otherwise, it was by committee, one running back after another. They essentially have lost their two top running backs. They traded away Brian Robinson, and then they lose Austin Eckler for the season with a torn Achilles. Now you're playing Chris Rodriguez, who was inactive the first two games. They didn't even use him. He had a couple of important runs. He didn't have big numbers, but he had a couple of important runs yesterday. And Jeremy McNichol, was a question to play because of a hamstring. Boom. It's like he shot out of a cannon, shredding tackles along the way like Riggo, and rumbling into the end zone for 60 yards. Just incredible. And, you think about the bad start, which I mentioned. That's a credit to a veteran quarterback like Mariota and the team rallying around him.
Hey, you got this. And I think that instilled confidence in me to just go out there and just kind of play my game. But it was cool to see kind of all three phases come together, and it's a great step. We just didn't blink. We understand kind of there's going to be ebbs and flows in the game, and regardless of how those go, we never want to ride the roller coaster. And our team does a great job of just staying kind of at that same level all game, and knew that if we just executed a little more cleanly that we could score some points and get some stops and do some good things on special teams.
Up on this, did you know that it was DQ and that he went down pretty hard?
I realized it as I was getting pushed, and I was trying my best to hold him up as I could. And like I said, he went into the training room and just got bandaged up and was like, all right, let's keep going. And I think that's what really kind of got the guys going in the second half.
Yeah, I was just thinking about this. I don't know if anybody said this after the game. I would imagine that Cliff Kingsbury takes over. He's got head coaching experience, I think. I don't know this. Joe Witt, who's the defensive coordinator, he coaches from the press box, so I don't think he takes over. So, yeah, if God forbid, Dan Quinn gets knocked out, concussion, whatever, I got to think that it's Kingsbury taking over for the rest of the game. One more from Mariota, and this is where he is at age 31. Bounced around. At one point was going to be Jaden Daniels, Heisman Trophy winner, second pick of the draft, and just didn't pan out. But here he is, 10 years later, 11 years later, still doing his thing and loving it.
I just had fun, man. And I really just had to take a couple moments, even after the game. I just grateful to play the game. I love it. I love this team. I love being out there. And it's been such an interesting journey for me. And I would never trade it for anything in the world. I think I'm here for a reason. I believe in it. I believe in God placing me here to be a part of this, and I trust it. And whether that's going to be something that's long-term or, something that just keeps going, I have no idea. But right now I'm just focused on enjoying this in the present moment and doing whatever my role is for this team, because I think we have a special group of guys.
Marcus Mariota now 1-0 as a starter for Washington. All three games that he played in last year, they won, and the playoff game, he made a brief appearance against Detroit. They won that. I don't think he mopped up in the Philadelphia game, so he's all about winning. He just wins. And, I would think that if there's any doubt whatsoever about Jaden Daniels, that he doesn't play next week in Atlanta. Coming up, I enjoyed this. I'm old enough to remember when the original show aired, the NFL Today. They're celebrating 50 years, and I thought CBS did a remarkable job with it yesterday. My thoughts on that and more as we continue. It's the Andy Pollin Show, ESPN 630.
The Andy Pollin Show on ESPN 630, the sports capital.
As the introductory news conference for Commanders GM Adam Peters gets further and further in the distance, I just keep going back to the question that David Aldridge asked him about the current roster. Remember, this is January of 2024, and there was at least a 3-second pause by Peters before he kind of weaved his way around, well, there are some players here, and pretty much turned it over. I think there are only like 10 players left from when they took over. From that start of that 2024 when he began to load up on veteran free agents and has done a great job not just filling out the roster but getting players who are significant contributors like Bobby Wagner, who's the on and off field leader for this team, Zach Ertz, who's done a great job at tight end and across the board. I mean, they brought in Von Miller this year. Von Miller had a sack yesterday. He's only playing probably about 20 snaps a game. I don't know what the snap count was for him yesterday, but he's not on the field very much. But, yeah, he had a great sack yesterday. And then he's on the sideline doing the John Riggins thing with the oxygen mask. Well, Riggo would get the oxygen mask on during games where he'd get like 30 carries. And he wasn't a young man then either. Riggo was 32, 33. I think Von Miller's 35 or 36. And it kind of reminds me a little bit, not completely, but a little bit of Deacon Jones. Von Miller's probably going to go to the Hall of Fame. He's not the defensive legend that Deacon Jones was. But Deacon Jones and George Allen, they loved each other. And for one last year, George brought him in here in 1974, and he played spot duty on the defensive line, pass rushing situations, and probably is most famous for kicking an extra point in a blowout of the Bears at the end of the season. You can find that picture somewhere on the internet. It's Joe Theismann holding because Sonny Jurgensen, who was the regular holder, refused to do it because he thought Deacon would kick him. But Deacon made the extra point, and he goes down in NFL history as one of the great pass rushers. Von Miller, an outstanding pass rusher as well. Former Super Bowl MVP. I mean, a lot of things, but I had to laugh when I saw that yesterday. We'll get to what Quinn has done with the roster and thoughts that Dan Quinn had on that as well. What Adam Peters has been able to do in turning things around. But I did want to spend a little bit of time on the NFL today and what they did yesterday to celebrate the 50th anniversary of the first show, which was hosted by Brent Musberger, along with Phyllis George, and this was, groundbreaking stuff, a former Miss America who, frankly, didn't know very much about football, but was there to add interviews with players, and, players liked her. She was beautiful. She was smart, and, I think her most famous interview actually took place, might have been 76, the following year, when she was interviewing Roger Staubach, who was sitting at home with his family. And Roger Staubach, an American hero, Navy, Heisman Trophy, served in Vietnam, quarterback of America's team, squeaky clean image, family man. When he won the Super Bowl MVP, he turned down a Corvette to get a station wagon, the whole thing. And then, Joe Namath was at the height of his fame and doing the pantyhose commercials and squiring around beautiful women in Manhattan. And he said to Phyllis George, he said, look, I like sex just as much as Joe Namath. I just like to have it with one girl. And that was his wife who was sitting next to him. So that was the original crew. I didn't realize this. They said this yesterday. Jimmy the Greek came in year 2. Jimmy the Greek was not there from the beginning. Irv Cross was there, and that was also groundbreaking. There'd never been an African-American on a NFL pregame show. Well, that was actually the first NFL pregame show. I don't even know if they had any analysts of games who were African-Americans. So that was groundbreaking. Gone to school with Brent at Northwestern, had an excellent career in the NFL, playing for the Philadelphia Eagles. And so that was the original crew. And then the following year, they want to bring in the Greek. And actually, Pete Rozelle understood how gambling was important to the NFL. The problem was that it was illegal. And so they had a meeting in his office, and Rozelle said, yeah, okay, we're going to sign off with this odds maker. And Jimmy the Greek had made himself famous because he set the odds. He made himself famous by a wrong prediction because he set the odds, the Colts and the Jets in the Super Bowl. He made the Colts 18-point favorites, and the Jets won. That was sort of his claim to fame. But, he knew how to play it up. He was good on television. He wore this big medallion around his neck. And his name was Jimmy Snyder, but he went by Jimmy the Greek. And it just worked. And Brent was a big gambling guy. But they went to Rozelle's office, and Rozelle said, oh, yeah, one more thing. Can't use the point spread. So they went, well, how can we talk about gambling without the point spread? And that's when they came up with the board, the checklist. So if you saw the checklist and the Greek had checked off most of the checks for one team, he believed they were going to win, and if they had all the checks, he knew they were going to cover, and that's how it all worked. But the signature phrase for Brent in those days was "You are looking live," and he's explained this a number of times over the years. But this was most recently this past weekend when he explained how they came up with that phrase and what it led to with "You are looking live."
Bob Fishman, the original director, came to me and said, Brent, my father likes to bet over-under totals, and he'd like you to do a weather report. Well, we haven't got time to do that. So I said, Bobby, can you give me a live picture of Soldier Field? I think it was in November, Amanda, when we first do it. A little nasty weather. Yeah. So we did Chicago. You are looking live. It sold out Soldier Field, where the Bears are No, I didn't say the points because Rozelle didn't want that. But anyway... Comes back the next week, Bob Fishman and the producer, Mike Pearl, they came in, they said, that was great. That was great. The people betting over-under totals love the weather. So what we did, Matty, is we added a couple other stadiums, Kyle, and we go around the league, and one time we had a flood down. Coach, we had a flood down in Tampa. The hurricane had gone through. Oh, my God. They were all over the under after they saw it. True story. True story. That's how it started.
Yeah, that's how it all started for Brent in 1975. He's 86 years old now. Some of the things they did were remarkable. They made the set look exactly like it did in 1975. I think they went a little overboard on the hair and the makeup. They had a picture of James Brown, would have been, I guess, not long after he finished at Harvard, and he had this afro and these long sideburns. They dressed Nate Burleson and Matt Ryan in kind of leisure suit looks of the time, and they did a lot with the hair and the makeup with them as well. Bill Cowher looked absolutely ridiculous in what they did with him, but, it was all part of the spirit of what they did. But Brent, at 86, opened the show the way he opened it 50 years ago, and still, as you'll hear here, has his fastball.
You are looking live at U.S. Bank Stadium in Minneapolis. It's a battle of backup quarterbacks. Jake Browning for the Bengals, Carson Wentz for the Vikings. Both teams hoping they can deliver. And now live from Gillette Stadium in Foxborough, where the Patriots chase back-to-back wins for the first time in 3 years, while the Steelers look to rebound after last week's disappointing loss. And live from Everbank Stadium in Jacksonville, where the winless Texans faced a must-win to save their season, and the Jaguars seek to end a 7-year home losing streak against their division rivals. And also live from Nissan Stadium in Nashville, where Indiana Jones and the Colts look to stay perfect against the Titans and rookie passer Cam Ward, who is still searching for his first NFL win.
Oh, come on. You gotta love this music. And you see the old-time graphics. James Brown, Nate Burleson, Matt Ryan, Bill Cowher, and special appearance by Brent Musberger. It was a half-an-hour show. That's all you needed. They got 3-hour pregame shows now. Half an hour. Brent Musberger, NFL Today. Started 50 years ago and was an institution.
The NFL Today is sponsored by Jeep. There's only one. From the CBS Sports Control in New York, here is James Brown.
Yeah, you see a guy driving a Jeep from, looks like, the 1970s. I mean, it was just the right touch. The hair and the makeup a little too much, but everything else about it was really, really good. Sadly, Irv Cross is gone. Phyllis George is gone. Jane Kennedy, I believe, is still alive. I don't know why she wasn't a part of it. I'm not sure. But, you just think about how this all started and, what they would do prior to this live show was they had, I think it was Jack Whitaker and somebody else, maybe Pat Summerall, and they would tape something in the studio on Friday, and that would run as like a 15-minute pregame show. And now it's inconceivable that you would do a taped pregame show because you always got these last-minute injury updates and everything. And frankly, the pregame shows have sort of outlived their usefulness because you used to get things that were, not available anywhere else. But now, an Adam Schefter report, you're going to read that on Twitter. You're going to find out things before you find it out on the set. And it's just a lot of guffawing now. They got rid of Jimmy Johnson, or they didn't get rid of Jimmy Johnson. He retired, or maybe they pushed him out. He's 80 years old. And they were running Gronk. Gronk's a moron. He adds nothing to the set. Terry Bradshaw's getting old. Howie Long, I think, is still pretty good. Kurt Menefee is fine. But, the pregame show, which would get you fired up for football, was a half an hour. It started at 12:30. You got the Greeks' prediction if you wanted to do some gambling. You got a little feature from Phyllis, and Irv and Brent would give you some of the nuggets for the games, and You Are Looking Live. Yeah, that was the first time you're getting the weather. You couldn't look up the weather in Chicago on your phone. No. So It was really an interesting time, and when you look at it now from the perspective, certainly of people like Matt Ryan and Nate Burleson who weren't born, I don't think they can fully understand what it meant to have Brent Musberger lead you into an NFL Sunday, but it was magical. And he talked about this at the end. They did almost a full hour with him, and he did mention his exit with CBS. I think he indicated this was his first time back. Now, if you remember this was on April 1st, and that plays into this too. This was April 1st of 1990, and Brent at the time was negotiating a new contract with CBS. I mean, he was the man at CBS. He was Jim Nantz. He did the NFL Today, the pregame show. He did golf, Masters coverage. He did the NCAA tournament. He did the Final Four. And almost anything else that CBS did sports-wise, Brent was involved. And he had another job, too. He was doing the news in Los Angeles during the week on the CBS affiliate there, would fly to New York on the weekends to do the NFL Today. I mean, he was working like crazy. And CBS had acquired baseball. And Brent wanted to do baseball. And they said, no, you're really doing too much here. So we're gonna hire Sean McDonough to do that, and he wanted to do it, and that's what ended it for him at CBS. And this was the Sunday between the semifinals and the finals of the NCAA tournament. So this was the 1990 UNLV team that blew out Duke by 30 in the final. So as those two teams are getting ready to play in the championship game on Monday night, which is going to be on CBS. I was doing work at Sports News Network, a one-year fledgling network, which produced, among other people, Kurt Menefee and Chick Hernandez. But we were in the newsroom, and this came down, and we were, it's April 1st. This is an April Fool's joke. Brent Musburger's not leaving CBS, and we had to call CBS PR to confirm it. And they said, no, this is not a joke. Brent is out. And they let him do one more night. They let him do the championship game on CBS, and he said, I'll see you down the road. And he did, and he went on to have, good success, great success with ABC and ESPN. But it shouldn't have ended that way. And I blame Brent for that, too, because at that point, Brent should have said, yeah, I'm doing enough. I don't have to do baseball. But that's how it ended. And if it hadn't, Brent might be wrapping up 50-some years with the network at this point. But he referenced it at the end of the show, and he said, I never thought that I'd be back here. He said 45 years. It was 35 years. It was 1990 when it happened. But I really enjoyed seeing him back, and I thought overall CBS did a great job with that. Also on the nostalgia front over the weekend, the Patriots had their Hall of Fame inductions, and they put in, among other people, Julian Edelman, and they brought back Bill Parcells. And, you talk about a kind of a rough ending, kind of Brent Musburger style. Bill Parcells coached the Patriots to their second Super Bowl. The first one was when they got blown out by the Bears. I believe Raymond Berry was the coach. But this was in 1996, 1997. He's coaching the Patriots, and they play in the Green Bay Packers in New Orleans for the Super Bowl. That's the one that Brett Favre won. And, so that would have been January of 97. And Parcells was negotiating a new contract with the New York Jets while he was getting his team ready to play in the Super Bowl. And there was some bad blood on that. Clearly there was. And he took Bill Belichick, with him. Bill Belichick went to the Jets with Parcells. And then, we know, of course, Belichick was brought back. But that was not a good move on Parcells' part. And he had to have some bit of regret when he's watching his protege, Bill Belichick, win 6 Super Bowls, and he became sort of a wanderer. He winds up he coaches the Jets. It's going to be turned over to Belichick. Belichick resigns after one day. I resign as HC of the NYG, and winds up coaching the Patriots. And Parcells never wins a Super Bowl again, doesn't get back to another one. And he had to look with some envy on that. And, he's kind of a lion in winter now. I covered him in his prime 35, 36 years ago, maybe more, when he was covering when I was covering for WFAN, the New York Giants, when he coached there. And he was an intimidating presence. And he had a way about him where people walked in fear of him. He's in his 80s now, and his voice is weak, but he's a lion in winter, looking at what happened in New England without him, and very honest about where he stands right now at this point in his life.
This place has a place in my heart. It always will. We sometimes reflect on things, and you wish you would have done things a little differently. Well, when I come back here and I see this, I wish I would have done things a little differently. But as we got going, we stabilized the quarterback a little bit with Drew. We started making some picks, started getting better quality players, got in a couple playoff games. We won a little something. And finally, the New England Patriots were competitive.
Well, they were competitive with Parcells. They made a Super Bowl, but they won a bunch of them with Bill Belichick. And I just, wonder how that feels. And, it's another what if in sports, because let's say Parcells stays. Let's say one of the scouts convinces him to take Tom Brady. And let's say it's Parcells winning all those Super Bowls instead of Bill Belichick. How has history changed? And I'm not so sure that there are many teams outside of the Patriots who are interested in hiring Bill Belichick. Because when he was hired by Bob Kraft, people said, what? Yeah, look, he had no personality. He was not liked in Cleveland. When the Browns moved to Baltimore, they fired him before they moved. Nobody was really knocking on his door. And Kraft saw something there. He traded the draft picks that he got when Parcells jumped to the Jets, back to the Jets to get Belichick, and it proved to be a stroke of brilliance. And, other than that, I don't know. I mean, I'm sure he would have gotten a shot somewhere along the line. Does he get a guy like Brady? I don't know. I mean, I think that debate now, Gary Myers just wrote a book about that. I think that debate has changed, completely in the last few years, last 5-6 years, that it was more Brady than Belichick. But, just imagine if Bill Parcells doesn't jump to the Jets, stays with the Patriots, and, that would have been like 2 years later, they would have drafted. They had Bledsoe, that's true, but they would have drafted Brady. And, Parcells didn't mind, benching a veteran quarterback. He's the one that put Tony Romo in there. And Romo didn't make the Hall of Fame, but he had a good run with Dallas. So just interesting to look back on those things. And, to hear Bill Parcells' voice at this point in his life, it's a little jarring, because I always think of him as that intimidating presence that he was with the New York Giants in the 80s. And when you would ask a question he didn't like and he gave you a glare, that would shake you to the core. Coming up, Shades of Mr. T at Northwest Stadium. It's the Andy Pollin Show, ESPN 630.
The Andy Pollin Show on ESPN 630, the sports capital.
All right, so the Nats are not going to have 100 losses this season. They took 2 out of 3 in New York over the weekend, but they have, I think, 93 losses, and they're going to have their 6th losing season in a row since winning the World Series. And, there's some extenuating circumstances they'd go with that, including the pandemic, including Steven Strasburg, who turned out to be a monstrous mistake. I would have given him the contract extension, but think about how it didn't work out. Man, it didn't work out. That was a mess. He pitched, I think, 33 innings on a contract that gave him $245 million after he was the World Series MVP. There are a variety of reasons for it, but as they say, it all starts at the top, and there's an extensive story in the Post from the weekend that I'm going to give you the highlights of coming up in the next hour as to what a dysfunctional mess it seems to be right now with the Lerner ownership. And we got 1 week left in the season. It wraps up on Sunday. And I just wonder if there will be a sale of the team. I think the Masson deal goes away at the end of the year because the Nats can opt out of it. I don't think it exists just with the Orioles. And there's even something from Rob Manfred in recent weeks where he's talking about Major League Baseball taking over the whole thing, all 30 teams, kind of like the way it works in the NFL, that all the TV rights for all the teams are held by the networks and managed by the National Football League. And that's kind of the way that he's looking at doing things. I don't know if it'll work out because some of these regional networks are big moneymakers for teams. Like the Yankees have their own, the Red Sox, the Dodgers, the Cubs, et cetera. So that's going to be something to keep an eye on. But I'll give you the highlights of that coming up. I just wanted to – this was fun yesterday. Daron Payne, the aptly named Daron Payne, talking on the field on this they do some type of a post-game show that's on I guess it's just online. Brian Mitchell's a part of it, and Santana Moss, and then some other fellow who I'm not familiar with who's very enthusiastic. But anyway, they have Logan Paulson down on the field. And before I give you this little snippet of this interview that he did with Daron Payne, let me just tell you, it reminded me of this.
What's your prediction for the fight then?
Prediction?
Yes, prediction.
Payne.
Mr. T in Rocky III. Daron Payne on the field with Logan Paulson, asked about this win yesterday.
Violence. Like when you're the team captain, you get to talk to the team. I told the team the word of the day is violence, and I just wanted everybody to go out there and play violent and be physical, and I feel like we did that today.
You could definitely. I sit here on the sideline, and every hit I'm like flinching, man. To give me flashbacks when I played. Talk about your performance today, man. I just felt like you brought it to a different level. Great leadership by you on and off the field.
Yeah, man. Just trying to bring that violence. I feel like we kind of got punched in the mouth last week, and we want to be the guys that punch people in the mouth and set the tone. So this is just like a set the tone type of game.
Violence.
What's your prediction for the fight then?
Prediction?
Yes, prediction.
Payne.
Prediction. Payne. Oh my God. So anyway, that was sort of fun. Now, unfortunately, there is real pain to talk about. And we're going to find out today about some of the injuries. But reportedly, Will Harris broke his leg. Got to think that's 6 to 8 weeks minimum, even if it's a simple fracture. Now, I did see him walking, but he was in street clothes for the second half. So he's certainly going to go on the injured list. So that's a minimum of 4 weeks. Now you have Terry McLaurin, and God love him, but this was kind of inevitable. I mean, really was that. Yeah, he was working out, and he's a guy who keeps himself in great shape. But in many cases, if not almost all cases, when a player, a skill position player in particular, holds out, and he can hold out or hold in, whatever you want to call it, he wasn't working out with the team. He didn't participate in any training camp practices. He didn't participate in any preseason games. Not that that's a big deal. Nobody does that anymore. But, in a big play and something that he's being paid a lot of money for, he may have suffered a hamstring injury, which is going to keep him out maybe a week, maybe longer, maybe 2 weeks. Who knows? It might linger, and it might be something that lingers through the entire season. So you got that. Marshawn Lattimore, who seemingly is always hurt. He left the game with a concussion, and they were really hurting in the secondary in the second half. They were playing Jeremy Reeves. Jeremy Reeves, played really well in the preseason, and they kind of moved him up the chain. He's more than just a special teams performer now. But that is something that they didn't really want to do. They need him so much on special teams. They want him maybe in spot duty for here and there. He may have to start. Who knows? I mean, they're gonna be taking a look at a lot of different things this week with the practice squad, and I won't be surprised if they bring in some defensive backs tomorrow just to take a look at just for depth. And you look at what they did in the kicking position this year. And they went through 4 different kickers last year. And they said, okay, we've got to have a veteran guy here that we can depend on. So they gave Matt Gay a $4.5 million contract, guaranteed contract, basically guaranteed. Once you start the season, it's guaranteed for the year. Well, he not only missed a 37-yarder yesterday, he had missed 2 in the Green Bay game and was a little shaky in the preseason. After the Commanders score a touchdown, after Mariota takes it in, he kicks the ball out of bounds. So, the Raiders start on the 40-yard line. They held them to a field goal in that possession. But I think you got to be thinking that you're not going to be scoring these kind of points. You're not going to be scoring 41 points, not on good teams. And you might be looking at kickers. I think the kicking go-round may wind up in Ashburn tomorrow. Younghoe Koo, who was really steady for Atlanta for a long time, he got cut this week. The guy they brought in actually missed a field goal as well. But that's something that they got to be concerned about. They have to be concerned about Matt Gay, who has not looked good at all. He did kicking that field goal right before the end of the half. That may have saved his job. I think it was 55 yards. But, this is a league where you ought to be making 50-yarders routinely. And you miss a 37-yarder and you kick the ball out of bounds, you spend your whole week working on being ready for those particular moments, those few times a game where you're going to have to come in and perform. And I'd say overall his performance has been a C- or a D at this point, where he's making, big money. Crazy day, by the way, with field goal kickers. We had 2 games that were decided with blocked field goals, returned for touchdowns. Actually, the one where Philadelphia blocked a 44-yard attempt by the Rams, the touchdown that was added on that, the Rams Joshua Carty final play, blocking the kick, and then it was picked up by Jordan Davis. I'd like to see a fat guy run. He had good wheels. They didn't really need that, just blocking the kick. But, that was a game that the Rams were going to win. And then shortly after that, the Jets' Will McDonald jumped over the Buccaneers snapper, blocked a 43-yard try by Chase McLaughlin, returned it 50 yards for a touchdown, gave New York a 27-26 lead. But then Tampa went down the field with Baker Mayfield, and McLaughlin did kick the winning field goal, 29-27, as time expired. There were 7 games yesterday decided in the final possession of the game. 7 yesterday. The league loves this. Not that they need it, because people are going to watch no matter what. The ratings are tremendous, but it's a product that you look at what happened. The Green Bay Packers, with this defense that we saw just 10 days earlier, just dominate the Commanders. They got a 10-point lead with 4 minutes to go against Cleveland. Cleveland with a retread quarterback. And Cleveland comes back and wins the game on it was a 50-yard plus, like close to 60-yard field goal at the end of the game. They win the game 13-10. I mean, it was setting up for a matchup of 2 8-0 teams when when the Packers would play the Eagles on that Sunday night game. It's not going to work out that way. Crazy stuff. Anyway, a lot more to talk about, many other aspects of the game, which we will get to next. It's the Andy Pollin Show, ESPN 630. I put this out on Twitter late Saturday afternoon. Not seeing much activity on social media from the Fire Mike Loxley crowd, huh? See what happened with Maryland at Wisconsin on Saturday? They not only won, they dominated the game. Dominated the game against a Big Ten team, a Big Ten power over the years, on the road. So all you people who want to get rid of Mike Loxley, pay attention to what Maryland's doing this year with a quarterback who looks like the real thing. Malik Washington, one of the best freshmen in the country, best freshman quarterback in the Big Ten, and Maryland is competitive. 7-0 is not out of the question, as they'll play an Indiana team, which looks amazing. I mean, Indiana hung 63 points on a ranked Illinois team on Saturday night. The week before, I think they'd scored 73. Yeah, 73 points against Indiana State. Okay, different level of competition. Still, 150 points against, two legitimate college football teams. One of them certainly more powerful than the other. But, you follow up an Indiana State performance with a performance like that. Wow. Kirk Cignetti may be arrogant, But Google him. He wins, and he wins big. We'll get to that. Also more on the Nationals as they're closing out another losing season with more than 90 losses, and the reported dysfunction in the organization from the Post. We'll get to that coming up shortly. Josh Harris has done just about everything right? Since becoming owner. They're filling up the stadium. You got an exciting quarterback. You got a team that made an amazing run to the NFC Championship game last year. The stadium deal is done. Just about everything he does is right. It looks or has turned out right. This actually turned out to be okay. But although he's owned teams in other sports for years, he's owned the Philadelphia 76ers and the New Jersey Devils for quite a while. This is now his third full year as owner of the team, of the Commanders. You don't do what he did with Steve Weish of the NFL Network before the game. The interview was done to, kind of give him a pat on the back for getting the stadium deal done, and everything should be moving straight ahead to move and get it open by the 2030 season. But he didn't guarantee victory, but, kind of made it seem like, yeah, we should take care of this game. And look, we saw Green Bay lose to Cleveland. It happens. And so you just got to be careful in this soundbite era that we live in now, where Josh Harris says something here that he might have regretted had they lost the game. Otherwise, all sunshine and lollipops for getting the stadium deal done, as he told Steve Weish.
It's amazing. I mean, I grew up in RFK. I grew up walking in and hearing the crowd, watching the stand shake in the middle of the DMV. And I can't wait to bring it back. It's already coming down, and we're getting going right now. And thank you to the City Council and Mayor Bowser for supporting us and for supporting DC and what's a great project.
And the target opening date still 2030?
2030, like opening day, be there.
All right, so until then, we've got now. And today, of course, your quarterback, Jaden Daniels, is not going with the knee injury. What's your thoughts on today's game with the Raiders?
Yeah, look, I think this is one of we should win this game. Marcus has been around the NFL a long time, very respected quarterback. Team supports him and respects him, and we're going to be 2-1 after this game.
Okay, all right. Well, in a couple of weeks, we'll see what the record is. But you guys are going over to Madrid. First time playing a game over Madrid. What about going overseas and hitting that market?
Yeah, fair enough. No, Madrid's really exciting. I mean, to be able to represent the city of D.C., to be able to represent the DMV, to represent the NFL in Real Madrid Stadium. I mean, what could be better? And it shows you the power of the NFL and of watching football. People, it's going to be a crazy day, and I hope to see many of our fans there.
Well, I love it. Congratulations on everything happening now and happening in the future for the club.
Very exciting, and great day for football. 70 degrees, and it's be a fun day.
And it was a fun day, but if it wasn't, you'd be hearing that over and over. Well, we should be 2-1. We're going to be 2-1. You don't do the Joe Namath. We're going to win. I guarantee it. He didn't say that exactly, but he went in that direction, and probably best not to do that. But again, everything else has turned up very well for him. And during the Dan Snyder years, we used to talk about organizational losses. We used to say that all the time. Oh, yeah, this team, this organization, it stinks from the head down. It's an organizational loss. Yesterday was an organizational win. Tom Lovero's got this, pretty much sized up in a column today. Dominating win for roster built by Peters the right way, Adam Peters. And, you get a quarterback who can come in and play like we've seen Marcus Mariota play for the last 2 years. That's not an accident. That's carefully looking at who's available, who might be a fit, who might work in this offense, things like that. And then, bringing in veteran guys who can provide leadership. Yeah, they got an old roster. It's not quite George Allen's over-the-hill gang, but it's the oldest roster in the league. And it's helped by guys like Bobby Wagner and Von Miller who can still perform. Bobby Wagner had 2 sacks yesterday. 2 sacks. And Von Miller, who's 36 years old, did exactly what he was brought in here to do, spot play. He got a sack yesterday. Had to go to the oxygen mask after that, but what the hell, he's 36 years old. And to see what they did with backup guys. I mean, when Jeremy McNichols scored that touchdown, I go, oh, yeah, I forgot he was still on the team. he was a big factor last year, but and he wasn't even necessarily supposed to play with issues with a hamstring, and he comes in. Deebo Samuel, they got him for a 5th-round pick, returns the opening kickoff, 69 yards to set up the touchdown. Jalen Lane, 4th round of the draft, returns a third-quarter punt, 90 yards for a touchdown. That is roster depth. And to be able to use backups the way they did and the way they perform, that's a credit to Adam Peters and the Dan Quinn combination. Lavero actually asked Quinn about the roster depth after the game.
I think it speaks to the entire team. We talk even some of the guys who played who didn't last week. There were maybe close to 7 players who played today or maybe played against Green Bay and didn't play tonight at tight end and receiver and running back and quarterback and some other spots. It does speak to the team. And when called upon, being able to deliver, I was super proud of Jeremy on the long, maybe 60 yards or something like that. You don't know who's going to be the one to take that step and make the one, but when you have consistent performers and they're ready to go, I think he's kind of the epitome of commander standard, does it right, follows through with it. So it was good to see that tonight.
And he did. This was McNichols on his performance. You'd love to have rushing stats like this. McNichols with the 60-yard touchdown, carried the ball 4 times in the game for 78 yards and a score. That's some stats.
I just seen a bunch of guys trying to tackle me and tried to make a play and, got to peek out of it and just go out there and finish. It's all green grass and got to finish in the end zone.
I mean, what is that? We'll never experience that. What is that feeling like, knowing that you've propelled your squad with that kind of run?
Oh, it's great. Just being able to make a play for the team and working all week and coming off a tough loss. And this is what we talked about right after that loss. We took some time away, and once we came back to work on Monday, we knew what needed to be done. We knew we needed to, some sparks in the room, and I think that's what happened today.
Jeremy, what was your view of Marcus barreling into DQ?
Oh man, I mean, I was out there, I was blocking, and then I seen a safety coming down, and I seen Marcus trying to get out of bounds, and I seen him run into DQ. But DQ, he a bad man. So that's how he lives. So that's how we live as well. We back him. So I'm glad he got up. I'm glad he's okay. And I think that really propelled us after that, too.
Popped up like toast, said Frankie Luvo. Here's Marcus Mariota, who gave the ball to McNichols for the 60-yard run.
I really thought he got tackled like 4 times through the course of that. And then he popped out. And he's a dear friend of mine because we've been in a couple places together. And to see him have success, he's always been such a good player for us. And he does so much in the pass game, probably more than people even realize in terms of blocking. And for him to get an opportunity to make a few plays like he did today was really cool.
Now, Bobby Wagner, as I mentioned, the 2 sacks in this game. He's the clear leader of this team defensively and really, for the entire team, because I think Jaden kind of yields to him. It's Jaden's team. He's the most important player on it. But he and Wagner have kind of an interesting younger brother kind of relationship. It reminds me of. And neither one of these players are yet. Well, Daniels may get there, and Wagner's a Hall of Fame player. But it kind of reminds me, and it's a different sport, different dynamic, the whole thing. But when Magic Johnson joined the Lakers, and Magic Johnson always yielded to Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. It was Kareem's team. Finally became Magic's team. But it was a long time before Magic acknowledged that. And I think I see kind of the same dynamic working with Jaden Daniels and Wagner. This is Wagner on how the team was able to respond to a very ugly loss in Green Bay and kind of sit on it for 10 days and then come out and play like they did yesterday.
It sucks to lose a game like that on a Thursday because then you have so much time to sit and think about it. But, you go back to the drawing board. That's not the team that we want to be. That's not the team that we are. And you just try to correct those mistakes, be accountable of all the things that happen, and try not to make them happen again.
Your coach went down today.
Yeah.
Your quarterback got him.
It's crazy.
But everybody keeps saying that he was kind of a positive, that he was like, let's go. Don't worry about it.
Man, I think it just represents who he is, to be honest. Like, he talks about it all the time. Just his mentality, and it's literally like a, if you get knocked down, get back up and keep going. Like, he literally did that. His nose is bleeding, everything just bleeding at a cut. And he stayed there, locked in, and, got some treatment at halftime and came back out. So it was cool to see.
I don't want to make too much about that because y'all had to decide the game, but did that have an emotional lift for you guys at halftime, watching him get treatment to get back out there?
Yeah, I mean, whenever you see somebody, that leads the ship go down like that and then bounce back up, like everything that he preaches to us, we feel like we saw that in that moment. He got knocked down, got hit pretty hard. I mean, he ain't got no pads on, nothing. Came back up, and it was kind of like a movie. Like, while he was getting treatment, we wasn't sure he was going to be able to come out. And so we're gathering everybody. I'm getting ready to speak, and then he comes out of nowhere and like, I got it. And, it was just such a cool moment. I remember that forever for sure.
What did he say to you guys when he came back out?
I don't know if I can repeat those words. Just a nice, very colorful.
Yeah, he occasionally will drop a word, a colorful word, when he's talking to reporters, but it doesn't happen very often. And what the team will do is they'll put out his post-game speech to the team when they win, and there's a lot of I don't think they use bleeps, but you just hear silence when those colorful words come out. So all around, I think if you look at things to nitpick about, including penalties, they had 7 penalties for how many yards? 54 yards. I think a lot of it was holding because they were concerned about Max Crosby. There's that. There was the fumble by Mariota, I think, trying to make too big of a hero play in that. They gave up some big plays. That was when the game was sort of out of reach. I mean, you look at Geno Smith's stats from yesterday, that doesn't tell the story. 19 of 29, 289 yards and 3 touchdowns. You go, they must have won the game. No, they did not. A lot of that was garbage time stuff. They got him 5 times, 5 sacks. Watching the game, it seemed like it was like twice that, or maybe even 3 times. If it would have been a double-digit number for sacks, I wouldn't have been surprised. It reminded me, and this was probably the 2000. Yeah, it was the last year of Zorn, so it'd be 2009. And they played the Raiders there. And Jamarcus Russell was on the last, gasp of, well, let's see if he can play. And they put him out there, and he just got, I think he got sacked 5, 6. They didn't even play the whole game. Got sacked 5 or 6 times. I mean, it was just savage. And Geno Smith, who's a veteran, he even got out of a lot of situations, too. It looked like they almost had him a few times and didn't bring him down. Still took him down 5 times. It was all out on that. And to see what they were able to do with him defensively was very good. And look, on the kickoff and punt return, I know you're risking Deebo Samuel out there because he does so many different things for this team. But again, he can be a game breaker. I think he's going to stay the rest of the year. And Jalen Lane is the best punt returner they have had maybe since Brian Mitchell. And Brian Mitchell may get to the Hall of Fame. You remember the years? This is probably going back 10, 12 years, maybe 15. Time flies so fast. Remember when Antoine Randall L. was here? It might have been the Zorn years. Antoine Randall L. would catch a punt, go 2 steps, and fall down. I mean, it was just maddening, the punt return game. And they really haven't found anybody who can do it consistently well. Jalen Lane is a rookie. He's already had a punt return for a touchdown. It's possible if he has good health, he could be their punt returner for the next 5-6 years. I think that's definitely in play. And he did drop a pass yesterday. He may get better as a receiver, but he's got speed. And lasting till the 4th round, again, good front office work. Adam Peters knowing how to draft. Yeah, he's had some misses for sure. And Marshawn Lattimore may turn out to be a miss. I'd be surprised if they give him a contract extension at the end of the year. But to find veterans and to find good draft picks, I mean, the coach-centric operation that they had with Ron Rivera was a disaster, as we found out. 0 for 4 on first-round picks. All of them no longer with the team, cut loose in several cases. I mean, it's just really amazing just to see this quick turnaround. And, yeah, it's a bad team they beat yesterday. They probably have another bad team coming up next week in Atlanta on the road. But it's a work in progress, and it's a team that could very well get back to the playoffs this year. And once they get in, you never know. And, Philadelphia should have lost yesterday to the Rams. They didn't. And they're not invincible. So, keep your head up. Maybe this is going to be an even bigger year than last year. May not, but we'll see. All right, Bram is coming up next. He'll, I'm sure, have thoughts on the game. I'll have more follow-up tomorrow, and I'll see you then at 9 a.m.